The title of this session is called Spreading Hope, Making a Multi-Layered Difference on a Larger Level. And I'm bringing Todd Hull into this. Our story is in Being at Zero, so we won't get into our story during the session. I'll give you the quick overviews. But if you're interested in the whole story, it's Being at Zero is a memoir anthology. And so the memoir is how Todd and I met. And the anthology is a bunch of really great contributions by speakers like Tamra. And I think we're going to hope to get you in at least one of our books coming up. So, all right. Let me introduce Todd Hull. Todd Hull is a walking miracle. He has survived not only a 25-year addiction to methamphetamine, but subsequent to his recovery, late-stage non-hodgkins lymphoma, which has gone dormant through bio-scalar and other high-frequency solutions, as well as open heart surgery, which prepared him to meet the love of his life, myself. We were married on 11/11/22, one day before his 1-year sobriety birthday. And he now has more than 4 years of solid recovery. He has a background in psychology, forensics, we say that with quotes, and business. He graduated from Bridgeland Applied Technology in Business, December 2025, with his final project developing Reeling in Recovery. He's the vice president of Spreading Hope, a 501c3 nonprofit with the mission of elevating lives through integrative mental health and holistic recovery solutions. He is an avid fisherman, recently achieving his dream of catching halibut and salmon in Alaska. He is a spiritual giant who is still waking up one day at a time. So he's going to share his story in just a minute. But first of all, I'm going to introduce Spreading Hope and what is Spreading Hope. So as a background to that, I'm going to clarify, I've been trying to get support at least several years probably, but we really worked on it last spring to try to get published and get more like official academic publishing done with the research that I've done so far with these techniques, and just really move this integrative mental health model out into the world. And so I've looked at, having a nonprofit for a while. So part of our inspiration in creating Spreading Hope was to create something kind of like a school. There's the school. So our goal is to create an arena where we can do some research, where we can offer trainings online, sometimes in person, through events like this, and other opportunities to reach people. Okay. One of the things that we could do with this school is, frequency school is one of them, right? Where we talk about how to elevate your own life. And another one we've developed is Raise Your Recovery, which is taking that concept of the frequency model and applying it to the recovery model. So some people are familiar with, 12-step programs, that type of thing. I personally have 37 years of recovery, and 12-step programs were part of that. But when I discovered this model of raising your frequency, I realized there's so much more. And that I was so ready for it. And I've wanted to be able to share that with people in all the different layers or levels of where they're at and different life areas. Okay. Another area is the lake and the boat. And so what that represents is actually the concept of having a mentoring model that's not in an office, because if you talk to Todd, that's not really where he found his recovery. It's in the outdoors. It's in settings where you're real in your recovery, and he'll talk more about that, and experiencing the power of negative ions, right? The negative ionic fields around nature. Think about how that impacts recovery. So this is Todd's page, and I'm gonna let him talk a little bit about this. So hop in here, Todd, and tell us what inspired Reeling in Recovery. And we've got some pictures from your Facebook, so you can share those too.
Hello, everybody. What inspired Reeling in Recovery? Well, 27 years in an addiction to meth and other substance, mostly meth, amphetamines, falling away from my love of the outdoors and losing total track of that, which was something I was passionate about early on in life. My son, Joseph, who's on here, who I think Cristine's going to be introducing as well, was taught fishing, and there was times when I was able to take him out through those years of my addiction, but it's not so much as I'd wanted to. And I'm lucky that him and his sisters have caught on to it. And I was blessed with a grandfather who took me out in the outdoors, taught me hunting and fishing, the love of all that. And it's really where I connect. I would call it my second church, or even a spiritual connection like no other. I find that the 12-step rooms are great. You know, working with sponsors and sponsors is great. In an office type setting, as Cristine would explain, but it's not immersing yourself. And there's a connection that's I can't even explain. Cristine will. I think she's going to show you some pictures of what I've been doing lately up at Bear Lake.
Yeah.
Very cold, 13-degree weather sometimes. It's a very brief bite. They bite for about 15 minutes to a half hour. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning to go do this. Bear Lake Cutthroat. But some of those pictures you can see, you won't see anywhere else. You won't see waking up in the morning at your house. And that's just a connection. That's a friend of mine, JR, who's also in recovery, doing really well. He spent about the same amount of time as I did in prison. We've both given about 30 years of our lives to addiction and prisons and jails, and seeing many of our friends die. So this is what we do for fun now. This is how we connect. And it's a dream of mine and a passion of mine to take like-minded individuals who are still stuck in that darkness in that realm that I couldn't find my way out of. It was hard. My son and his sisters all grew up while I was in prison, while I was in addiction, while I got diagnosed with stage 5 non-hodgkins lymphoma. When they told me I wouldn't live, I refused to take that for an answer. And I lived. I'm here, thankfully. You can see I'm still here. Also in the same year was open heart surgery from abusing my body, aortic valve replacement. They call it the Widowmaker. I was in a grocery store holding my chest one day. Within 36 hours, I was in emergency surgery. Cristine talked a little bit about how that looks on the other side, how bioscalars can help me. Tamara, I'm sure, has presented things that everybody understands from bioscalar and energy level healing. And those all have helped. Cristine's taught me a lot of things as well with all her formula. I take her formulas every day still. I think, have you mentioned Crown yet, or is that coming up?
We talked about Crown Essential Oil, and I shared your video yesterday of how it got you off nicotine. You want to talk about, yeah. Because that's part of your recovery journey is you kept progressing. Like you didn't just stay with a substitute for a higher power, really, right? You
Excuse me.
moving towards the real thing.
When Cristine talks about nicotine and when I talk about my addiction, there might not be a lot of people on here who can relate to, meth's pretty extreme. Like I went pretty extreme. There might not even be a lot of people on here who smoke or use nicotine or use pouches or use chewing tobacco. But what I found, an addiction is an addiction. Doesn't matter food, substance, life choices, emotional yuck. We can get addicted to everything, right? And so when the Crown Oil thing for me, like I dare say that it was easier I hate to even say this, it was easier for me to quit a 27-year meth addiction than it was to quit nicotine, if that makes any sense at all. Nicotine's legal. Nicotine is being offered to our youth in the form of Zyn pouches. our children, our high school children, our middle school children are able to walk into convenience stores now and have their friends or whatever, and some people sell them to them the nicotine pouches, and it's called Zyn. Those were the hardest thing for me to get off of, and Cristine showed my video, and it was crazy. I mean, I wasn't going to a drug dealer in a seedy dark alley or somewhere to buy this. I wasn't manufacturing this. This is stuff being offered to myself and children who are keeping not only are keeping our kids and our generation sick. So that's another big point for me too that I want to stress. It's not just the illicit drugs and the illicit drug trade. We know that's there, and my choices took me there, and it was hard. But we're offered things in daily life that are so-called legal that are hurting us just as much.
And I think some of these like post recovery addictions, if you want to call it that, like nicotine, can prevent those rewards. We talked about the concept of the tree. And as people are in recovery and they're waiting for that reward to come and it doesn't come, what Todd and I have seen is heartbreaking. We've seen people with 3 and 4 years sober relapse. And it's not just a temporary relapse, it is a permanent loss. It's because the drugs are now laced with fentanyl and they're different than they were 3 or 4 years ago. We're seeing people with, families, young parents that go out and relapse because life got too hard and they're gone. And they leave behind a widow in their 30s and small children. And that has been like, to me, like that got my attention. And so it's like they're that tree that almost has the reward. And that's the point where, loss feels heavier, bigger because of the years that have gone into getting there. And so that's like really motivated, I think, our continued movement on this mission. And just taking someone even in those few years of recovery out on a boat and having some real conversations with them and having a shift just in that, getting out of their burnout life, out of their overwhelm. So this is another example of that. And using fishing to connect families, right, is another one. Couples, and what's your vision there?
If you notice the word reeling is spelled capital REAL, it is about being real in your recovery, real in my recovery. It wasn't until I got honest and real with myself, which took till I was 48 years old. I started this journey in my late 20s. I started at 12 years old, if I was to be honest, with cigarettes and alcohol, but I fell off into amphetamines, which I could never come back from at 29 after starting a family. It's about being real in my recovery. It's about others being real in their recovery and rewarding their actions by doing so. I feel like there's so many people out there trying right now and not knowing where to go. Life's already hard. We know how expensive life is now, how hard things are, how hard it is to obtain housing, jobs, vehicles. Those things are all hard enough itself. And I just want to make it available for people who are doing a deal and really trying, and to not only reconnect them with the outdoors, but maybe take a family member or two also. And that's the connection. And my son would agree. And I think anybody who's ever learned anything from their parents, whether it's sewing, knitting, golf, or the outdoors, it's something that means a lot to them. There's a lot of people out there that I know of who really love fishing in the outdoors. So that's kind of the idea there. Don't quite know. I mean, we're dialing it in. We're getting excited about it. I'm creating.
So you can kind of see our vision here. You've got nature, you've got the school. I add a church, not because, so when you're setting up a nonprofit, they request, like it applies to certain types of missions, if you want to call it that. And education is one of those. And religion is also another area. And so we're not trying to create a religion. But what I want to see, and I think Todd would agree, is a stronger spiritual solution approach to recovery and to mental health. And if you look at it, mental health is one of those things that those who find those spiritual solutions can tell you, like they can be, freed from depression or anxiety through a spiritual solution, through a faith-based experience. And it's just not something that's talked about in the actual traditional mental health world. And so we want to see those options available, which looks a little different than the traditional model. It's a little more alternative, right? With the idea of like alternative medicine is there is a discussion on chakras, right? And on aspects of self that go beyond the physical. And we want to create that same arena for the mental health world that goes beyond the mind, goes into that spiritual realm, right? So that's one of the things we're looking at. So the crown system, and this is, I haven't really gotten into this, but if you look at it, you can see the names of the crown formulas. We have physical body, vital body, mental body, and quantum body are actually for the formulas. And so we're taking existing formulas and we're working with the four bodies as an evolution of healing. And so that's part of it, as well as the essential oil, which supports that reversal in the crown chakra. And it combines frankincense as the divine masculine with myrrh as the divine feminine. Has anybody heard of that before? That frankincense and myrrh, which of course we recognize as given to the Christ child, represent divine masculine and divine feminine. That's part of why this is so powerful. Sandalwood is very high frequency, and clove provides auric protection. So this is one of those things that we found to be effective. And now I'm going to introduce Joseph Hull, because he's going to tell you a little bit about his experience with this. So Joe's story, how do you want to introduce? Let's have you introduce Joe. Todd, tell us about him.
Oh, there's too much good stuff to tell about Joseph. Joseph is my youngest son. I might start in a tear. Why is this coming up? I'm super proud of Joseph. Joseph had the cards stacked against him from a father that made real poor choices, right? Joseph
We're trying to decide if you were on parole or in prison when Joe was born.
I was in prison from a pregnancy from parole. Anyway, that's neither here. That can be funny. We'll save that for later or not. Joseph had all the cards stacked against him, however, and he watched his father in and out of prison and just couldn't get it right. Joseph grew up in South Salt Lake. It's not the most prominent, successful part of town, but he did have his mother and a loving stepfather that helped, and I'm grateful for them both today. Joseph made choices, him and his brother, they didn't want part of the insanity of what I was doing or how it was affecting their family and his sisters as a whole. And he's been a responsible young man and doing the deal, working hard, and that's how they're trying. Joseph can share with you some struggles that he's gone through that he's come out on top of, and he is now part of our nonprofit, and I'm grateful.
He is a board member, yes, of the nonprofit.
Joseph has a love of the outdoors, and we've gone fishing a number of times. Quite a few in my addiction, but now we've gone a couple of times out while I've been sober and made that connection and look to do more, so a lot more of it. So I'll let him tell you guys more about himself and what he's conquered and accomplished and where he's at in life.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, like they mentioned, I'm Joseph. I am Todd Hull's son, the youngest of 5 to 7 siblings. So yeah, as he mentioned, life, it hasn't been, the greatest for me, but I have never used that as an excuse to not get where I want to be in life. So I kind of had something written down, but before I get into that, I want to share that I am super grateful to be a part of spreading hope. Just last year, I was kind of in the midst of a career change, job change. I was working a full-time job while trying to become a realtor on the side, and things just weren't going my way. I feel like every time I would take 2 steps forward, I would take another step back. And that's when I started doing more work with my dad and Cristine, and, kind of trying to find the real cause of, why I tend to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Um, so yeah, I do just want to say I'm blessed that we have come up with a solution like spreading hope to where I can go and, assist people or families or, anyone who might have been in my shoes at one point. So just to kind of give me some direction with where I'm going with this, I'm going to go off of what I have written. So to me, spreading hope means an opportunity to be a change in people's lives and be a representation of what is possible. At a young age, I didn't feel that I was dealt the best hand of cards, but I knew early on that it's your situation that shaped your future. It's, excuse me, I knew early on that it's not your situation that shapes your future, but the actions you take each and every day to become the best person you could be. I've endured some of the toughest battles, oftentimes not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but I knew that it was up to me and only me to decide who I want to be in this world. I was a very observant kid, and being so observant, it gave me the opportunity to decide what I wanted to be in this world and what I didn't want to be in this world. At the age of 26, I feel that I have more life experience than some people in their 50s. I used to think that was a bad thing, but now I understand that I would not be the hardworking, headstrong, confident man I am today. Helping people in need is something I enjoy, no matter if that's with mental health, addiction, homelessness, or any other battles that people face. Spreading hope has the opportunity to help kids that are in the same shoes that I once was, or the person in recovery like my dad is, or the people dealing with mental health issues like so many people are. Our mission in this world is very simple. It's to spread hope.
That is amazing. Thank you so much. I go back to when Todd and I were either almost married or right around that time. So it would have been fall of 2022. And Todd shared with me that the two of you had not spoken, messaged anything for at least 2 years.
Yeah.
And that he carried that as like this pain around with him, as like this loss. And I remember promising him that if he made the decisions to change his life, continue to change his life, that there was hope.
Yeah.
And I remember the day we pulled into the garage and he pulled out his phone and he saw a text message from you. And it was like fruit on the tree. It was like this like reward. Like he had achieved this promise of reconnection with you. And I love what I love about you is you have boundaries and you aren't about to do drama, and like that has required a higher level from the people around you, like that I can see, and
Yeah.
that you just saying, you having that sense of self-preservation, resilience, we could call it,
Mhm.
has been an example to him and to
Yeah.
me, like to see that,
Yeah.
that yeah, that you have a level of tolerance, that you're not just gonna take, you know,
Yeah.
dysfunction.
Yeah. That takes me back to, just being observant growing up. Like I said, I knew early on, the choices I wanted to make and the choices I didn't want to make. Of course, I had some hiccups along the way, just like everyone does. But I still tried to keep a pretty straight and narrow path, and tried to keep, my mind on the main goal of life. So,
That's amazing. Yeah, so I don't know if you know this, the word for 2026 in my, year is resilience. And so I don't know if you had saw our session our last session, but that's, this tree analogy that continues to grow despite.
Yeah.
the environment, and you really represent that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's amazing.
If I
So,
if I can mention one other thing real quick, Joseph and I have in common, and it's a big part of why reeling and recovery and spreading hope. And we don't have to mention it, but I think it'd be great to honor their names. Joseph has a sister. His oldest sister, Savannah, took her life at 16 years old. Well, he was very young, and I was in prison for that as well. Just 3 years prior, my baby sister Becky died at 20 years old. So those things in themselves, I think, are fuel for my fire. And I think Joseph would say the same. It's also about spreading awareness of, mental illness is obviously what leads up to the suicidal ideations and notions. And if we can help there, whatever we can do to help. And I think that's hugely a part of our process as well. Just to mention and honor their names.
yeah. So, yeah, suicide prevention and, and elevating lives and creating that resilience so that that isn't an outcome, that a heartbreaking outcome that you see. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the aspects of our mission. So, meditation as a spiritual solution as well. And so, one of the things that Spreading Hope helps to support is our communities where we study A Course in Miracles and use quantum wholeness meditation to support these positive outcomes. And so, we do have a membership community with that. And there's even more. Okay, so I didn't have this when I shared with Joe yesterday when we were kind of like, I was like, here's a picture of what I think Spreading Hope is. There's also a bank. Now, if you look at each of these as kind of an alternative version, kind of an alternative learning, alternative spiritual solutions, this is an alternative bank. So let me tell you about an alternative bank. It actually is designed. So one of the things that where Spreading Hope has come in is that we actually have a fund that is ready to support our efforts, and it's based on cryptocurrency and crypto trading. And so the fund that offers is designed to really create a multiplication of funds. And so it grows faster than traditional finance investments. And so one of the things we also offer is we can accept donations in the form of cryptocurrency. We accept USDT, we accept XRP, and Bitcoin, as well as Ring Token. And Ring Token has a dollar sign in front of it, and it's represented by R&B Labs. And so all those things are kind of like a unique aspect to this. I know that as I looked at, yes, thank you, Thaddeus, for showing that. So it was fun. Let me introduce Thaddeus as well. So if you want to give us the 1 minute what you've learned about Bitcoin that makes it something that you trust and Thaddeus is amazing how he's just a natural for a lot of our quantum solutions and alternative mindset.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So with Bitcoin, the thing that I like about it is that, well, it's verifiable. Nobody's going to be able to print more of it. It's always going to be what it's going to be. And it's really just that simple. You don't have to trust anybody with it. You can just keep it on your own hardware wallet, or you can keep it on an exchange, whatever you want to do with it. It's yours. It is something that you own.
And it's positioned to grow exponentially as, I think what's the percentage that's been mined so far?
Well, so there's going to be 21 million ever, and 19.5 million Bitcoin have been mined currently, roughly so.
90% of it almost.
Yeah, and within the next 10 years, about 99% of it will be mined, because there's the algorithm. The way that it works is that it's not an invention, it's not a technology, it's a discovery. It's a mathematical formula. It's like 3.14, right? With pi. Think about that, but with monetary and finance terms. And Bitcoin, I've done the math like 20 times, and the probability of it going to 1 million is far more probable than it ever going to zero. In fact, it's highly, highly, highly unlikely that it'll ever go to zero, because that would mean that anybody and everybody who currently owns Bitcoin would have to sell it or just not ever use it. And the fact that more and more people are adopting it for like Spreading Hope, for example, donating donations with Bitcoin, uh, this is going to be something where it's designed to be a digital peer-to-peer cash system. So people that
Like
understand.
Venmo. Everybody gets Venmo, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the difference between like cash and currency is, you can think about it like cash is something that nobody can really know how much of it you have. And with currency, it's kind of uh, like assets that people know about. So like a car or like a house or something like that. That's something that you'll have to like report. Whereas with Bitcoin, gold, silver, that kind of stuff, nobody can ever really know how much of it you have, except for you. You're going to be the one that can verify it. And the cool thing about Bitcoin as well is that it doesn't exist on a server. It exists on a network of computers. So yeah, once you understand the way Bitcoin works, XRP, etc., you kind of just recognize that it is going to be the future, whether we want it to be or not. And so the fact that, Spreading Hope is part of that revolutionary change and updates in life, leading the way, that's exactly where we want to be.
That's amazing. Thank you. So another kind of affirmation of this is Todd started working with a personal trainer, and the trainer recommended peptides. So a lot of people have heard of peptides. It's kind of like a next level solution in healthcare. And when we went to order his peptides, these new companies, one of them offered a discount if you use your crypto card, like a Visa or MasterCard, but it's attached to your crypto wallets. And one of them only accepted cryptocurrency or Zelle. And I just thought that was so interesting that they didn't want to deal with the traditional banking model or regular credit card model. And so what we're looking at is a higher frequency, wealth-oriented financial opportunity, kind of like alternative medicine is going beyond the disease model. Alternative finance in this regard is going beyond the debt model. So the debt model is what has held up banking for the last few decades, 100 years. And so we're evolving into a debt-free type of finance model. And so it's exciting to see. So it's kind of like we're combining all of these high frequency themes. As I've evolved my frequency, that's, in the last year, Todd and I attracted this to us. And it's become part of our passive income. It's like ease and flow with, higher frequency solutions. So that's our model basically of what Spreading Hope is all of these things together. And another thing so we kind of established in 2025 the Spreading Hope name as we connected it to this conscious abundance concept. And now in 2026, it's going to take over kind of more of a nonprofit type model where that gives us opportunities in different ways and with different partnerships, for example. So we can work with other nonprofits, or we can work with, even like corporations and different partners to see some of these results happening and goals being reached. So there's some of our things that you can use to get involved. I think, Joanne, if you'll just put these in the chat as well. So we've got the crown oil. So one way you can support Spreading Hope is purchasing the crown kit or crown oil. okay, because we take a percentage of that product in particular to support spreading hope. And if you want to learn about Reeling in Recovery with Todd's Facebook page, that's there. And then basically supporting health, healing, and wholeness with things like the home shows and just helping build our business is one of those things. So let me explain kind of another concept with this. So if any of you heard of Unique, it's a business that was developed as a makeup company. Okay, so it was, like makeup, skincare, maybe products, and it evolved. That the why behind this is that they wanted to help support those who were suffering or were victims of sexual abuse. And so the Unique Foundation was formed, and it has changed its name to Sapria. So it rebranded to Sapria. And the way that and I'll show it you just kind of this concept, because this is the model that I'm trying to base what we're doing off of to some extent. So Sapria is a, like I said, company where they talk about the issue of sexual abuse and the impact it's had socially. And their goal is to take, the funds, the profit from their profit-based company and move it over into their nonprofit company to help support this. They do retreats and a lot of healing. And these retreats, I think, are basically free. So the Sapria retreats is, something that they do. And I've heard about those, and I've heard they're just amazing and healing opportunities for people in need. And so that's the same kind of concept I'd like to see is we take the health, healing, and wholeness for-profit company. So the frequency formulas, the trainings we offer, all of the things that we make available. We just talked about the 6-session program. And those are the things that help support and build the resources as well for what we want to do on the nonprofit level. And because there's people out there, for example, people that we learned a couple years ago as we tried to launch Crown, that a lot of the people that were the best fit for letting go of nicotine, for example, were not in a position to make that a priority financially. So if they were to do it, it's like it wasn't top of their list, even though it might have been an important thing in their overall health and managing their emotions and all these other things. When you add a price tag to it, it just was too much to take on. And so we want to make that available to people that, couldn't, encourage them more to take those leaps towards a higher frequency life. And then Raise Your Recovery is another one that we'd like to get into rehabs and that type of thing. But most rehabs are just they're sort of survival mode. They're depending on funds that started to become less available with the changes in, politics and economics and all these different things. And so to offer higher level services is not something that a rehab is necessarily funding right now or prioritizing. And so as we have the resources to make these things available, I think we can reach people. And so anyway, one way to support is to just get involved and take advantage of the opportunities here. We're also starting, the donation funds. We're looking at getting some things kind of like Kickstarter or GoFundMe going so that people can see that opportunity. Kelly's asking if we have a TikTok. One of those things that is on our to-do list, because that's probably the population that we're trying to reach. That is so these are the kinds of things that, we can prioritize and find, the resources to keep going and doing. So it's like a big vision. And we'll continue to, look at partnerships. That's another thing that would be really helpful. And in the survey, when you fill it out today, which Joanne, will you put the survey in the chat now? Now we're ready to say, okay, it's time. So everybody grab a copy of that survey link, because what we really want is your feedback on what areas are landing for you and then it gives you opportunities to say, okay, here's how this could benefit your life. Here's some next steps. Here's how, and one of the questions on there is ways to support spreading hope. And one of the things we offer is a way to network and find some good fit partnerships. So when we're thinking big, it's like, are there some other nonprofits or foundations out there who have some similar goals? And, if we work together, we can move this much faster in a much bigger way. So if you have thoughts come up, whether that's like a private, we're thinking we might have some reach with private rehabs that are not dependent on the, like Medicaid system, for example. We can approach some of those and offer, these fishing rewards. Think about that instead of, like the automatic go-tos in the reward system of the brain, right? Different dopamine is what we're looking for. And, and offering some of these other really high frequency options to support people that haven't found success in traditional models. Oh, another thing we've put on there is if you're kind of interested in the crypto alternatives, we have that's a way you can support as well. So we actually have Spreading Hope as one of these, it's actually, we're tied to an XRP model, and, and people that get involved can help boost our returns and your own, and we help each other. And so that's kind of fun. So there's a place to share interest or show interest in that. So before we wrap up, remember, we're coming back on Wednesday. We're going to have your all of the info from you by then, your surveys back, because they're due on Tuesday. You should be able to get it done today if you want. And you should have all of the recordings by then, so you'll have a chance to catch up if you missed anything. And then we'll be able to get together Wednesday morning, and we're going to use your feedback to kind of direct the focus for that and make sure that we offer you some real interactive value to support kind of your next steps and kind of the next level of bringing it all together and applying it. So another thing we've talked about, and this is also in the survey, is Tamara and I are both in Northern Utah and doing some in-person type events. And so make sure to answer on that. She's done her deep emotion release in person, and it is so good. So that is one of those things that if you're interested in that, there's a place to show, to vote and share your location where that would be most. The hub, there's the link to the hub. And if you haven't seen that, I actually want to share that just because that is so fun. It's the playlist. So you can actually pull up the whole playlist from YouTube. We've got subscribe. Oh yes, remember to subscribe. Our goal is to get to 500 YouTube subscribers in the next, hopefully, month or so. And so that's really going to help us get there. And then we've got links added now to the videos so you can grab things easier. We've got the videos pulled up for you from each day. You're going to see 3 more videos here. And, oh, fun. Okay. If you wanted to open up your 4 Bodies, 4 Medicines, you can just click on it right there. It pulls the whole thing up. So I think somebody had a question on the CIS form, and that's actually in here. So it's on page 13, and you can actually see kind of what that CIS form is about. And that's one of the things I want to get published in the near future. And then the event survey available now. So there you go. We will leave you with that, and excited to hear more, get to know you better. And thank you for being part of this.